Hello, everybody. This is Amaj Ali, clinical audiological scientist and founder of Heureka OS. Welcome back to the channel. We have another very interesting case to share with you today. Again, this was an audiogram sent by a gentleman that belongs to a Facebook group that I belong to, and I have very limited audiological information and history other than this was a sudden sensorineural hearing loss case. It happened in the summer of this year, and the person that sent me the audiogram told me that they're still finding it very difficult to come to terms with. So sudden sensorineural hearing loss is where you wake up one morning and suddenly you find, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the morning, but it's just can happen very very suddenly and abruptly that you notice that you can't hear it at all in one or both ears. And I say at all because your baseline is normal hearing. So when you suddenly lose it to a significant portion, you feel that there's no hearing at all. If this ever happens to anybody listening to this video, it's absolutely imperative that you get yourself straight to A&E and you hopefully see an ear, nose, and throat specialist. They should arrange for a hearing test to be done and corticosteroid medication to be prescribed. It is one of the rare forms of inner ear hearing pathologies, which we call sensorineural hearing loss, that can be treated with a medication. But there's a short window where corticosteroids can work. In some rare cases, just by the medication alone, the hearing comes back to normal. But in many cases, it does come at least improve to a much better degree. But it's all down to timing. So it's really critical that you get yourself seen as soon as possible, if God forbid this ever were to happen. So now what we're going to be discussing is what type of hearing loss we're seeing in front of us based on the audiogram alone. Again, I don't have any bone conduction values, but certainly if that was diagnosed, they would have done BC testing. But on the right side, we're looking at pretty much a normal hearing, thresholds on the right side. There's a bit of a loss here at 8 kilohertz, which is a mild hearing loss. And on the left-hand side, we're looking at a severe mid to high frequency. And again, it would be sensorineural hearing loss. So there is a stark difference between the two, and that will be very much apparent when I do the simulation. So we're going to go with the female voice again, and we're going to start with the right side first. Here we go.
The roster of Nobel laureates
sorry.
is studded with the
Let's
names
start
of
again.
great. The roster of Nobel laureates is studded with the names of great and deservedly illustrious persons. Some dreamers, some men of action, a few true geniuses. But there are giants missing from the list.
So hardly any difference there. If you were to call it slight bit of clarity issues, very, very slight. If you're listening with earphones, you'll be able to pick that up. But that's because of the little drop here. But it's neither here nor there, if I'm being honest, and that's quite normal. Now we're going to see the left-hand side, and you'll see a stark difference. Here we go.
For example, the most fundamental contribution to the physical sciences that has come out of America was the work of J. Willard Gibbs, professor of mathematical physics at Yale University during the last quarter of the 19th century. Gibbs had no laboratory. He performed no experiments.
So the best way for you to really hear this simulation and all videos that I've been posting so far is to get a good quality pair of earphones and wear them, or put your volume up high enough so that the difference can be heard clearly. So what I'm listening to there sounds like that you've got your head underwater and somebody's speaking above the water to you. It's all muffled and mumbled. There's hardly any clarity. It's quite difficult to hear. There is some hearing, but it's very low. The audibility is affected, and that's because if you see the speech banana here, anything below the line is what we would capture. Anything above, so majority of the speech would be above it there. There's only a little bit here below the line which they will capture. So we can go to a male voice. I think there will be a difference. I think male voices would be a bit easier, if I'm being honest, and that's because of male voices being low frequency dominated. We're going to play that and see how it goes. Here we go.
No recurrent event in the intellectual world is so avidly awaited by so many people as the annual announcement of the Nobel Award. No formal honor conferred by man carries such distinction as a Nobel Prize.
I would say that the volume is slightly easier, but the clarity is in no way better. than the female voice because the clarity is carried all here. So although you can hear the gentleman's voice that's being simulated, you can't really make out what they're saying. So when there's a case like this and you're speaking to somebody with asymmetrical sensorineural hearing loss, in a quiet room, they'll be able to communicate fine. I mean, as long as you're sat in front of them, or especially to their right hand side. But if they're walking outside and you're speaking to them from their left hand side, they're going to struggle a lot. They're also going to struggle in group conversations. So if there's a group of people talking, anybody that's towards the left of their body, that they're just going to find it very, very difficult to pick out what they're saying. So it's a lot of head turning and turning their head, which can be a bit awkward socially sometimes. So that's going to be the challenges. There's also going to be the challenge of directionality, which means finding out just by the sound alone where an object is. Like, for example, if your mobile phone is going off, very difficult to find where the mobile is coming from. It would feel like everything's coming from the right hand side. So directionality is a problem, and again, that's going to be a concern for safety reasons. If you're walking outside and there's a car behind you or in front of you, you won't really know which direction it's coming from. So it's really, really important to correct this hearing with hearing aids. Hearing aids are not a cure. They are a treatment, just like glasses. They don't cure the visual impairment. They only correct the vision. In the same way, a hearing aid can correct this hearing loss, but it's all down to how it's done. So I hope this was useful, and we look forward to sharing more videos with you in the future. Thank you for listening.